The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am, of course, your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Thursday, June 22nd, 2017. Thanks so much for joining us. As always, I want to thank every one of you who watches, shares, subscribes, likes, any way that you support the Benjamin Dixon Show. We greatly appreciate it. We definitely want to take a moment to thank our patrons, without whom this is not possible. You can become a part of the patron family and get access to all of the bonus content that we provide by going to www.patreon.com/the BPD Show. We've got a lot on our agenda tonight, so let's jump right into it. The Senate Republicans, for whatever reason, decided to release a draft of their bill today, of their version of the American Health Care Act, previously passed by the House of Representatives and celebrated in the Rose Garden by Donald Trump and the entire Republican House caucus. The Republican senators have decided to get in on the action, and it would appear that this bill not only is mean, according to Donald Trump's own words, but according to Chuck Schumer's very corny play on words, it's meaner than we even thought it could possibly be. Let's jump into some of the details of it. So much of the bill is the same as what the House of Republicans passed a few months back, but there are some very significant differences, and there's some things that we need to point out. So the bill is going to hurt more people now than even what the House Republicans could have achieved. Right, we're expecting, according to the House Republicans bill, according to the CBO score, to lose about 24 million additional Americans off of health care simply by passing this bill. And the Republican version, rather, is poised to hurt even more. Some of the same things exist. So there's no longer an individual mandate in this. And so the entire framework of it is being undermined out the gate. There's no individual mandate. There's no employer mandate, meaning there's no penalty for employers who do not provide insurance for their employees, particularly large employers. The tax credits would vary by income at a lower eligibility level than under the ACA. And basically what this means is that for you to get any type of credit or subsidy from the government in terms of assistance, where the ACA provided coverage for anyone who earned less, provided a subsidy, rather, for anyone who made less than 400% of the federal poverty line. And in real numbers, what that means is if you're an individual and you made less than $47,000 a year, or if you were a family of four and you made less than $97,000 a year, you qualified for a subsidy to help you with your insurance premiums. Now that's changed from 400% of the federal poverty line to 350%, meaning now instead of $40,000, $47,000, you have to make less than $41,000 for an individual. And for a family of four, instead of $97,000, you have to make less than $85,000 for a family of four. So essentially, these tax credits help you buy less. You can get less assistance, a lower threshold, and you get less. So this is just another way that the Republican Party is looking to hurt the average American. Here's another one. Now, this hasn't changed since the House version of the bill, but it's worth mentioning again. Their age-based pricing. In the Affordable Care Act, you could only charge an elderly person 3 times what you would charge a younger person. And this was to, essentially you would want a person like me who prefers single payer, you would want everyone to get no premiums, essentially, just whatever our taxes cover. And so even underneath the Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, 3 times is still, in my opinion, wrong. However, they've shifted it from being a 3-to-1 ratio to now 5-to-1, a 5-to-1 ratio. In other words, insurance companies can now charge older people 5 times as much as they charge younger people. And it gets even better. The Senate bill allows states to opt out of Obamacare's marketplaces and essential health benefit requirements. Now, this is something that hasn't changed since the House version of the bill, and we covered extensively when they passed that version of the bill. But this one essentially lets them determine, gives states the ability to waive health benefit requirements, allowing insurers to exclude things like specific health care products and services. So in one state, it may be a requirement for you to provide, maternity health care, a special health care coverage for someone who's pregnant. In another state, they may opt out of that, and you could be in Georgia, for example, and not be able to get the same type of care that you would if you were in Massachusetts. And the list goes on. So the Senate bill, again, repeals the individual mandate, and it replaces it with nothing. Nothing. And of course, the entire point of the bill, if you're trying to figure out why they're doing this to America and why they're doing it to themselves, besides their grudge against President Obama, former President Obama, if you really want to know why they are doing this, it's because it provides a tax cut for the wealthy. Let's just break it down. In the Affordable Care Act, which I always want to call Obamacare, it levies taxes on wealthy people and healthcare companies to finance expanding coverage, according to the New York Times. And the Affordable Care Act, or the American Health Care Act, so many acronyms, repeals or cuts all those taxes. One in particular is the ability for healthcare companies to write off CEO salaries above $500,000 a year. They've cut that, and now they are not, now where Obamacare limited their ability to write off salaries over $500,000 a year, now the American Health Care Act version, the Senate version, does not have that limit or that cap. So, Obamacare was considered by, and this is actually a good take, this particular take from Vox.com. They said Obamacare was a redistribution of wealth from the rich to the poor. The AHCA would reverse that. And essentially, the AHCA is now going to be socialism for the wealthy. We have socialism in America. We have always had socialism in America. It's just we've had socialism for the wealthy and socialism for corporations. And in this case, we have socialism for the wealthy as well as healthcare corporations. This is exactly why. This is the reason. This is why they're doing this. Not because they have a better solution. This is a worse solution. This is not even a solution. It's going to harm so many more people, 24 million Americans, and possibly more once we get the final CBO score. So not only are they going to hurt more Americans, but they're targeting the sickest and the elderly. The people who are going to pay the most out of this are the people who need it the most. And this is something that can't be overstated. And it's amazing to me, the people who support this, they support it because it's something from the Republican Party, so it's got to be good, according to some Republicans. But those groups are the #1 groups who depend on the subsidies just to get insurance, and they depend on Medicaid. Don't forget in here, there's a cut in Medicaid expansion. This is over and above what the House Republicans did. In the Senate bill includes deeper Medicaid cuts than the House bill. So people who actually depend on this the most, Republican voters who depend on this the most, who might be championing this simply because they finally get to repeal Obamacare, they are going to be hurt the most by this. And a lot of people are not taking this sitting down. There were protests today, brilliant protests that took place in front of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's office. Capitol Hill police had to remove protesters. Before we discuss it any further, let's take a look at the protesters that they were removing. Wow. So this is just This was just one protester out of 60 who were forcibly removed from Mitch McConnell's office, and they were a part of ADAPT. ADAPT is Americans Disabled for Accountability in Public Transit, Accessibility in Public Transit. And so there were literally dozens of people, handicapped, disabled, in wheelchairs, protesting on behalf of health care benefits that they need and we need. They're there protesting even on our behalf. And the Capitol Police removed them, dragging them out of their wheelchairs, dragging them out and stopping them from protesting a bill that's going to do damage to their life, their livelihood, to their lifestyles, to everything that they need. And I'm sorry, like, I totally get that you're a police officer and you have to do your job, but no, you don't have to do your job. This is one assignment that I would have had to get received a reprimand. They would have to reprimand me. Put me on desk duty for a month. I mean, do something, but you're not going to get me on film dragging a disabled person out of their wheelchair, especially when they're there protesting on the behalf of their best interests against Senate Republicans who are doing everything they can to destroy 24 million more Americans, all for the sake of tax cuts and all for the sake of Donald Trump's ego. And yet the bravest among us, which should not be a surprise, are often the people who have the most to lose. And here we are, ADAPT stood out there on behalf of all of us able-bodied people, and they were dragged out in a most disgusting fashion. I actually have to pause and really think about this in not only the imagery, not only but really there's nothing that America won't do to her citizens to maintain some sense of decorum, or even on behalf of people who are trying to hurt us. So I want to personally thank the people from ADAPT, the protesters from ADAPT who went out there and were detained on behalf of the rest of America who need the same thing. We need insurance coverage. We need solutions. We need Obamacare to be better than what it was. We need single payer. We need something to make it so that we don't have to go bankrupt just in order to survive a medical crisis. So I want to thank those activists who were there on our behalf while we were here doing whatever it is that we're doing. They were there protesting on our behalf today. The video that you just saw was by Jordan Uhl at Jordan UHL on Twitter. Definitely go over there and check out the other videos that he has. A couple of other things. There was a series of tweets by Senator Bob Casey. Yeah, Bob Casey of Pennsylvania. And I want to just go through his tweets. He had a pretty good breakdown of it. Let's take a look at some of them. So Casey said, this scheme sells out the middle class, seniors, and individuals with disabilities to pay for a tax cut for the wealthy. And that's obscene. He goes on to say, on page 41 of the bill, they revoke essential health benefit requirements. If you go to the next tweet, he breaks that down. This means insurance companies are no longer required to cover things like maternity care and emergency services. This will affect everyone. And then finally, he says on page 86, he found where they are decimating Medicaid. And, you know, we've gone through all those things, but it's, you know, this is what's happening. And we need our senators to fight tooth and nail. There is no compromise on this. There is no triangulation on this. Someone floated 2 weeks ago that they were going to consider not going nuclear on this in order to get the sanctions, a bipartisan effort on sanctions against Russia. No, this is not something that you triangulate on. This is the hill that you rhetorically die on. You fight this fight until there's nothing left, and you extract as much pain as you can out of the Republicans. You cause them as much political pain as you possibly can and make them pay for this. Make them pay for this at the polls. Make them pay for this at every step of the way. Make them pay for this before they get anything else done. Cause as much political pain as you possibly can. There is no compromise. There is no triangulation with people who are trying to destroy us in order to give a tax break to the wealthiest. And with that note, I want to mention something that's coming from Progressive Uplift. I think it's actually apropos for the time in light of the Republicans moving forward with the AHCA today in the Senate. It's imperative that people get prepared for the worst. And to that end, one of my colleagues, Michael Graham, has been riding with me since I think like day 2. Michael Graham has been fighting with me for a long time at the Progressive Army, and he started what's called Progressive Uplift. And they are affiliated with the Progressive Army, which is why I'm here promoting it here. And I want you to go out and support. There's a senior writers at Progressive Army, as well as Rachel Wolfgang, a contributor to Progressive Army. They've gotten together and written the ultimate guide to surviving President Trump, healthcare, life after Obamacare. It is a part of Progressive Uplift. You should go over there and check them out. Progressive. I don't have the URL. If we get the URL for Progressive Uplift, I can definitely send that out later on. But go over there to Michael Graham's at Blue Upfront. I think I have his Twitter handle well. I tell you what, who's going to handle it better for me? My producer in New York, David. Get Michael Graham's Twitter handle as well as his URL for the website to get this book, and post it in all of our different chat rooms, and we'll do it that way. If you want to weigh in on the discussion, 857-600-0518. Let me go to some duplicities, some espionage, before we go to all of our other stories. So there was a CIA official who has been arrested for leaking information to China, according to charges filed today in an Alexandria federal court, according to the Washington Post. Kevin Patrick Mallory of Virginia, who was a CIA official who had top secret clearance, was arrested for releasing or selling top secret and other classified documents to Chinese intelligence officials. So again, Mallory had top secret clearance and had access to a treasure trove of information in the government up until the time that he retired, or he left the government around 2012. And according to documents, he sent three documents that contained classified information, all of which were labeled top secret to a Chinese intelligence operative in May. In his conversations with his Chinese contact, he made it clear. He said that your object is to gain information. Quote, your object is to gain information, and my object is to be paid for it. Again, this is reporting done by the Washington Post. And the operative replied to him, quote, my current object is to make sure your security and to reimburse you. So in other words, they had an agreement. I give you this information, you protect me and pay me, and you get what you need. So he got found out in a very, the way he got found out is almost laughable. He had an encounter with FBI agents for various reasons that you can find out in the article over at WashingtonPost.com. But ultimately, he had a meeting with FBI agents. And in that meeting, he was showing them how you can transfer documents from being secure to being unsecured. And in the process of demonstrating to the FBI agents how you transfer documents from being secure to unsecure, he inadvertently unlocked the documents that he had been sending, communications rather, that he had been sending to his contact in China. And so according to the affidavit, he was showing the agents how to move the message from normal to secure mode when the messages appeared. And at that point, he was incriminated for what he did. So he got away with it for a while, and he probably could have gotten away with it for even longer. But I guess he was just trying to show off that he knew how to do something fancy and ended up getting caught. And now he faces up to life in prison. Let's take this caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, Ben. This is Brianna Guy.
Hi, Brianna. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I just want to get back to the healthcare real quick.
Absolutely.
I agree. We got to do everything we can to stop the Republicans for passing this. And we got to put so much pressure on these guys that we got to do something. Like,
yeah,
and even the Democrats, like, there's nothing much Democrats can do with them because they don't have the vote.
mm-hmm.
And I'm like, they show, the Republicans show that they really don't care. Even if we put so much pressure on them,
Mm-hmm.
they really don't care at the end of the day. They can probably just pass it. You know, we got like 4 senators that say, oh, we oppose this, but those are like the most right-wing people in the Senate
Yeah,
that opposes this, and they're going to make it even worse.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And one more, I know this, we just got to get off the Russian narrative. I know,
Yeah.
let's have the investigation. We got to stop talking about Russia. Because
Yeah.
right now, the Republicans, like, I have so many issues with the Democrats, but the Republicans are a whole other breed of, I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Some monstrous, soulless bastards who don't really give a shit
Exactly.
about anyone.
Listen, this is what
So
I
we
tell
got-
people all the time. Thanks for the call, Brianna. This is what I say all the time. If you hate Democrats because they are neoliberals, Republicans are neoliberals on steroids and cocaine. Right? That's their concoction. So if you hate neoliberalism, there's no way you can sit by and not voice opposition against the Republican Party. You can't. It doesn't make sense. In reality, what we found is there are many people who claim to be progressive throughout the election that they're not progressive whatsoever. All they ever were anti-Hillary Clinton. And I get not being a fan of Hillary Clinton, but if that was the entire depth and breadth of your political participation, such that you don't see it necessary to criticize and go after the Republican Party, who embody every single damn thing that you hate about the Democrats squared, cubed, then you're not a progressive. You were never a progressive. You were just in this to attack Hillary Clinton. That's number one. Number two, this need of the Democratic Party to triangulate and try to reach moderate Republican voters. This health care bill, it exemplifies exactly why that is a strategy that they should never try again. Because if you have moderate Republican voters signing on to and supporting this bill, what good are they in your coalition? They are the exact opposite of what you would want in your coalition. So I want to do like the Batman meme with Robin. Anytime they say like, we should totally get Republican, no, slap them. Slap them because it just makes no sense. Why would you pull people into your coalition who are willing to not even sit by, but actively support a piece of legislation that is going to hurt the elderly, that's going to hurt the sickest, that's going to hurt the most vulnerable, and knock 24 million more Americans off of insurance that are already on insurance? Why would you want them in your coalition when you could see all they are really after is their own personal benefit to the expense of the most vulnerable people in our society? They are not the type of people that you should want in a coalition, and you are foolish to go after them. You have been foolish, and you would be asinine to continue pursuing them. 857-600-0518. Let's take this next caller. Caller, you're live on the air. What is your name, comment, and or question?
Hey, how you doing, Ben?
Doing pretty good. Who is this?
This is Wayne. I'm calling from North Chesterfield, Virginia.
Hey, Wayne, I think I actually got a voicemail from you that we were going to go over today. How's it going?
Well, I'm doing all right. Got a few things going on. Number one, my birthday, my 33rd birthday is on Sunday, so I'm looking forward to that.
Let's give Wayne a round of applause for his birthday. Are you a Gemini? Is that still a Gemini?
No, I'm a Cancer.
Oh, you're a Cancer. Okay, well, it's close enough, though. You're good with me. Happy birthday in advance, man.
All right, thank you. I got a few things I want to talk about, but in the interest of time, I'm going to try to shorten it a bit.
Okay.
I've been
Appreciate
following
that.
politics very closely since 9/11. So I'm basically adversed in what's going on in our country and the world, and my interest in politics has really increased since the last election.
Mm-hmm.
But I really wanted to talk about and get your opinion on is something that I heard yesterday, this morning rather, when I was watching a few clips on YouTube, and they were talking about the recent Georgia race with John Ossoff and what was the other candidate's name?
Karen Handel.
Okay. The person who was talking about the election, he made some very good points, and when he got to John Ossoff, he basically talked about his campaign not being good and being quote-unquote soft, and he also mentioned that due to the fact that he was a quote-unquote corporate Democrat or something like that, then chances are, you know, the voters weren't going to like him. So I just wanted to ask you, when I think back to last year, am I missing something in terms of how things changed in the country as to how the candidates are being viewed? And the reason why I'm asking is because it seems like Donald Trump, for better or for worse, has totally changed the whole political scene, so that it seems like the Democrats are boxed in this little corner, whereas if they're considered corporate or elite, then the voters are actually turned from them. So if that's the case, then what does that say for the Republican Party? It seems like, in a sense, they're getting a pass and they're getting everything they want, but as it relates to the Democrats, they have to play by the rules. You see what I'm saying? So
I see.
I think that's my question.
Dude.
You know, am I missing something from last year in terms of, you know, people wanting change and stuff like that? And
you about to get me in trouble. Wayne, you're about to get me in trouble, man. You're about to get me in trouble because that's a good-ass question, and I'm going to give you the best good-ass answer I can. And just, you know, truthfully, what changed is a bunch of people found out the definition of neoliberalism. And I'm not trying to slam you guys because, you know, but I guess that was a slam, but I'm not really trying to insult you guys. There was the wool was pulled over. I'm going to answer it two ways, right? I'm going to answer it as a progressive who points out the neoliberalism and the corporatism first, and then I'm going to tell you why I disagree with even me calling it out at this point. The wool was pulled over the eyes of many Americans, Democrats, left-leaning Democrats, for a very long time. There has been 100%, there's been a rightward shift in the Democratic Party, moving away from the populism of the late 60s and before into the corporatism that they have now. So there's definitely been a shift. But what's happened in recent years, in the last 2 years, is that a vast majority of people who are politically active or politically active online, and they found out what was going on. And they found out by learning what neoliberalism was. And they realized that, damn, you know, the Democratic Party, they're a neoliberal party. What I used to call it, before I just started using the term neoliberalism, I used to call it that the Democratic Party was indistinguishable from the Republican Party on too many economic issues. And that's because they share some neoliberalism in common. So it's not wrong. Pointing out the corporatism and pointing out the neoliberal leanings of the Democratic Party is absolutely right, and we should do that, and we should no longer be pigeonholed to the vision that the DLC, the Democratic Leadership Council, had for the Democratic Party. We have to buck that. We have to tear that down and get the Democratic Party back to its populist leanings. However, you're absolutely right, Wayne, in that some of the people who are the most vocal about the neoliberalism and corporatism in the Democratic Party say absolutely nothing about it in the Republican Party. And the crown jewel of neoliberalism and corporatism is Donald Trump. So to me, it's highly disingenuous if you're going to criticize Democrats for something and won't criticize Republicans for it when they are what you hate multiplied by a factor of 10. I'm going to keep going up every time I mention that. Like it's to the 10th power now. Right? So if you are ticked off about the corporatism in the Republican Party, they have the reins of power right now. This is what matters. They are in power and they have the ability to change almost in a way that we will not be able to undo in our lifetime the structure of the American economic system, political system, and justice system. And they are in charge. So if you feel like the Democratic Party, who has nothing, they lost 1,000 seats in the last 8 years. They don't have maybe but 10 houses and state senates and governor seats, maybe 10. If that many. They don't have the House of Representatives, they don't have the Senate, they don't have the White House, and they damn near don't have the Supreme Court. So they are powerless. And you're focusing on, and I say we and you, whoever, focusing on the minutia of their corporatism. When I say minutia, not in terms of it's not important, but the fine details of their corporatism. And yet we say nothing about the corporatists who are in power, ready to reshape in a fundamental way the entire American economy. You cannot be an adversary of neoliberalism in the Democratic Party and be mum about everything that's happening with the Republican Party right now. If you are, that means that you're not really a progressive, you're just anti-Democrat. And we really don't have time for that. We need all hands on deck. If you're going to fight neoliberalism, then brace yourself. Winter is coming. The damn horde of the Republican Party is storming towards you with the purest grade of addiction, heroin, neoliberalism. They're coming at you with the highest order of neoliberalism, which means to me that you should be ready to fight them just as fiercely as you fight the Democratic corporatists. But like I said, a lot of them are not in it to fight neoliberalism as much as they are to fight the Democratic Party. Some of them are. Some of you are, and pretty much those who watch my show. Anyway, all right, let's move on. I want to jump into the interview here. I'm a little bit behind schedule, but I definitely want to talk. So a few days ago, I put a challenge out, and not so much a challenge, but a question out to the audience. And I really wanted to see where are we in terms of our activism. And I made it a big point to say that, at least on my show, I don't criticize people who are out there doing, because I'm not out here doing, I'm doing a show. I'm giving commentary, right? There are people who are literally on the ground out there right now working. And so my job is to lift them up and not to destroy them, like so many other outlets would try to destroy the activists. And once I put that video out, someone reached out to me, one of our listeners, Liz Booth. She reached out to me about Lancaster Stand Up. It's a project that she's working on directly. Liz is on the leadership committee for a grassroots progressive organization in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and it's called Lancaster Stand Up. Lancaster Stands Up, and it's located in South Central Pennsylvania. She is a married mom, a full-time employee in healthcare, and she takes time for activism. Liz, how are you? Thanks so much for joining me.
Hello.
Hey, yeah, we have you live on air, Liz. How are you?
Good. How are you, Ben?
I'm doing great. Listen, I thank you for watching the video and recognizing that you are out there working, doing exactly what I was advocating for people to do. Would you tell us more about Lancaster Stands Up?
Absolutely. First, Ben, thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm a fan. I listen, and I just appreciate everything that you are doing in the progressive movement. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Lancaster Stands Up. We are a grassroots progressive organization formed in reaction to the election of Donald Trump. Basically, it was a group of a few people that, this group started in a living room of mostly Bernie Sanders volunteers, most people that volunteered on Bernie Sanders' campaign. And we're just really upset at the election of Donald Trump. So, we saw an opportunity to push progressive politics by sort of becoming a vessel for people to channel their frustrations, their outrage, their need to do something, into, mobilizing these people to get involved in their government at the local, state, and even national level.
Right. Awesome.
So,
awesome.
That's sort of what we're doing.
What are some of the goals? Like, I saw a piece in The Nation, which is great. Like, for an organization that's just getting started, and that's getting its your feet underneath you. You've already gotten some national coverage. Tell me about the process that you and the team have gone through there, some of the successes and some of your end goals. What are you trying to accomplish?
Well, I think, right now we're, currently working to build an infrastructure in, our group, just because we want to eventually, hopefully be a group that has some political power in our area to able to run, progressive candidates, or at least endorse them, or, just sort of, shape the political atmosphere here in Lancaster and abroad. But so that's sort of what we're doing right now. But over the last several months, we've been very reactionary in a lot of ways to, obviously to the election we started. And then, we just kind of, every new thing that Donald Trump or the Republicans or, have sort of come out with or have done that have been upsetting to people, like the Muslim ban, obviously this healthcare bill. We've just mobilized, people who have come out to our community meetings. We have a community meeting once a month that people can come, and we, basically plan an agenda, and we talk about, what's happening. Well, first we spend time, number one, allowing people to express how they feel, what's been going on. We draw people from not just the city where we're based, but also the county. And, we find a lot of people that are coming in and just so frustrated and upset, and, they don't really know who to connect with and who to talk to. And they see our online stuff, they see our flyers. And so they come, and we just allow people to sort of, decompress and just, let that out. And I think that's really helpful. And then we give them tools, and we give them a way to plug in and get involved. So we've done a lot of different actions. We've had a sit-in at Representative Lloyd Smucker. He's our representative in Congress, and we've had a sit-in on against the health care bill in April when that was in the House. We went and occupied his office. We've also picketed his office many times. He also will not hold a town hall. He's one of those.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
One of many. So we went to we bought tickets to a Chamber of Commerce event of several of us, and went in and confronted him there. So we held a rally in the center of the city, and 2,000 people came out.
Wow.
In support of our Muslim and immigrant and refugee community.
That's awesome.
That was in January. So there's just a lot of things. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. We're doing a lot with a little.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's like I love what you just said. Like, you're doing a lot with a little. That's like the Progressive Army motto. We are so efficient with everything, even our time and our resources, because we don't have much time and we don't have many resources. But I love what you all are doing there. What you're doing is you are locally grounded, right? You're locally rooted, right. And you're serving as an outlet to the people in the community to not only give them a place to decompress and speak out, but also to get active. And I think those types of relationships are super critical, especially as you get ready to move into the next phase where you want to either endorse candidates or run candidates. It's the local groups that actually make the difference, because you will know, Lancaster stands up. You'll know the community in ways that a national candidate won't. So tell me more about the community that you're building within the community there with Lancaster Stands Up.
Well, one of the things that we are really excited about, and we've done, but are also planning, more actions in the future, is just canvassing. And that's something I think that is so important, particularly for progressives today. It's meeting people, meeting your neighbor, going out, stepping out of your comfort zone in some ways. Yeah. Because, when we brought this idea up at one of our meetings, our monthly meetings with our the people that attend, some people were like, I don't know about this, but, right. We actually trained people. Some of us have done, just voter registration and stuff. So we held a little mini training so people could get a little more comfortable, let them role play, going up,
Awesome.
And pretending to talk to somebody, and then, sent people out, and it was a great success. And, we went door to door, and, we have a knock every door kind of a philosophy. That's what we're wanting to do, and just to really meet people and personally invite them. I mean, there's great things that are being done online for sure, but we find that, you take that next step and, you meet all kinds of people who are apathetic, people who think, this doesn't matter in my everyday life. And, if you just start having that conversation with them, they realize, hey, maybe this does matter. And they come to an event and they're kind of, plugged in at that point. So it's been really successful, and we're really excited.
Okay, listen, two things. One, thank you so much for doing this and for whatever everyone is doing there. They don't know me, but tell them that the Progressive Army says thank you, because this is what we need. We need people to actually do.
They know you. Just so you know, I told people I was going to be on this, and everybody was really excited. So, awesome. Lancaster is aware of the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Well, you got me blushing now, and I don't think they could see I don't get rosy, but I'm blushing on air. But no, we seriously appreciate people who do, and to me, the people who go out there and do are far more important than people like me who just commentate on people who do. So I'm a fan of theirs. Let them know that we're a fan of theirs and we want to support them however we can. And then the second thing I want to say before I give you the last word, I want you to tell everyone how to get up with you. Liz, you have a fabulous voice and you communicate the message so wonderfully. I think that just a suggestion that you should consider doing something on audio, like a podcast for that group, and to just share something, because I think you have a winning voice and you say what you guys are doing so well. That might be another piece in your arsenal that could help you out. But that's just my 2 cents. Let's tell everyone how to get up with you and how they can support what you're doing.
Well, I will say, Ben, that we have actually discussed doing something, possible podcast or something like this. But, you know, again, we're working people that, you know, most of us work full time and are just coming together to do this after work and on the weekends and stuff. So that's in the works, hopefully. But thank you so much for the compliment. That's very nice. Okay, so how people can find out more about Lancaster Stands Up, we have a website, lancasterstandsup.org. People can go there. We have a very active and wonderful Facebook presence. We have a group and a page. People can just go in and search for Lancaster Stands Up, and they'll find our group and our page. We're also on other social media. We're on Twitter, Lancaster Stands Up. We're on Instagram as well. So, you know, find us there, and we'd love to connect with other people and talk with, you know, everybody further. This has been a great, I mean, as upsetting as this election season has been and sort of going into this, I think it's really exciting, the progressive movement and what you know, the inroads we can make as progressives. And that makes me hopeful and excited for the future.
Liz, I just sent you in Twitter, I just sent you a handle for my producer, David. I want you to send him some of those links so he could drop them in our chat rooms before the end of the show. So go ahead and send that over to him, and we want to make sure we push as much support your way as we can. Thanks so much for your time, Liz.
Thanks, Ben.
My pleasure. 857-600-0518 if you want to weigh in on the conversation. Let's do some low-hanging fruit here. We only have a limited amount of time. So Donald Trump created his own disaster. He created his own special counsel. He created all of this with one single tweet. And that tweet said, basically says that James Comey better hope that there are no tapes of our conversations before he starts leaking to the press. By tweeting that, Comey realized, well, if there are tapes, there may be corroborating evidence to everything that I had to say. And that triggered James Comey to actually do the leaks, to give the leaks to the New York Times through a colleague that he knew at Columbia University. So Donald Trump created his own monster. And today, Donald Trump tried to kill that monster by finally admitting that there are no tapes. We have 2 tweets on your screen that he tweeted out today, confirming basically that with all the recently reported electronic surveillance, intercepts, and unmasking and illegal leaking of information, I have no idea whether there are quote unquote tapes or recordings of my conversations with James Comey, but I did not make and do not have any such recordings. So, yeah, Donald Trump, that tweet, the tweet that James Comey better hope there are no tapes, might end up being one of the most consequential mistakes of Donald Trump's entire presidency, because that tweet triggered James Comey to actually start the leak. And by leaking it to the New York Times, that created the special counsel, Bob Mueller. That gave Bob Mueller the access that he needed to do this investigation. And now the investigation is in process. And all because Donald Trump had to get on his morning constitution and on his throne and rant and try to threaten James Comey. I can't state the irony of this enough. And now he's trying to put this to bed. But the genie is out of the bottle, Donald Trump. The investigation is going on, all because you could not shut your damn mouth. Keep tweeting, please. Keep tweeting. Another idiot in the American discourse is a guy who, I mean, I watch his stuff every day, but I wish this dude would go the hell away. I mean, I watch Different World every morning. This is such a tangent, but I have to say this. My wife puts on a Different World every morning at 6 o'clock, and then I accidentally roll into watching Roland Martin, and I just keep it there because I don't feel like changing the channel, but then it's time for us to leave, and there's another episode of Different World on. But anyway, the point is, I like Bill Cosby's work, but I wish Bill Cosby would just go the hell away. Because now, after having a mistrial, and having his attorney get out there and say how much power he now has back. Bill Cosby is suggesting that he will go on a speaking tour to talk about sexual assault education. This is not a headline from The Onion. This is not satire. This is according to the BBC and CNN. They are reporting that not Donald Trump, I guess, well, yeah, they both are grabbers of female genitalia, you know. But anyway, I digress. Bill Cosby plans on going on, this is like Jeffrey Dahmer going on How Not to Be a Serial Killer tour. This is like, you know, this is like a crack addict going on How to Not Be an Addict tour. This is like the tobacco company going on How to Not Kill Millions of People tour. This is insane. This is so ridiculous. Like the hubris of this. If you did not believe the accusations before, or if you were me and you just stayed the hell out of it, at this point, the hubris of it really should shake you out of your stupor and say, this man needs to get off the scene and just wait for death to come and get him. Like he's in that age group. Go to Costa Rica and just stay by yourself and enjoy the view instead of trolling America, who's trying to move out of a rape culture into a society where we actually respect what women say when they say they've been sexually assaulted. And now the sexual assaulter in chief, second probably only to Donald Trump, is saying that he wants to go and educate young men on sexual assault. I mean, now, in fairness, I don't want to hear it from Bill Cosby, but what better way to, maybe it's a cautionary tale. Maybe his tour is a cautionary tale. Maybe his tour is about, listen, you can't just go around and put, what are those things called? Not roofies. What was his drug of choice? Whatever it was. You can't just go around and put that in people's drinks. Like, that's not cool anymore, kids. When the hell was it ever cool? How do you pronounce it? Quaaludes. Quaaludes. Thank you. You can't just go around and put Quaaludes in their drinks and get away with it like we used to in the 60s. I thought I could bring that shit into the late 80s and the 90s, but it caught up with me. Maybe if that's his tour, then maybe. I don't know. Exactly. Fritz Carl said, Bill Cosby acts like OJ searching for the true killer. Anyway, let's move on. 857-600-0518. Let me see what else we have. We did healthcare. I only have 2 more stories. How much time do we have here? I'm going to do both stories. And we have some voicemails that I've been getting away from. Actually, we'll do that one next week. All right. So this next story is actually a very serious story, and I don't want to make light of it. So there's a video, and there's always a video, unfortunately, but there's a video of Minnesota police officers brutally assaulting a man that they had just pulled over. Don't take my word for it. Let's watch the video.
We got him stopped here by the courthouse. Get out of the car, motherfucker! Show me your fucking hands! Get the fuck out of the car! Get the fuck out!
Wow. And you can see they cut the audio there. The police officer who was observing cut the audio as Joe Swyek, the officer who's assaulting the 22-year-old man, Anthony Promvangza. All right, that's enough of that video. It's hard to. All right, so this is just another day in police brutality in America. If you watch the video and you watch it again, you see this officer come onto the scene with his gun cocked to the side like he's coming out of some damn gangster movie from the 80s. Right, in the most unprofessional, not just unprofessional in terms of decorum, but in terms of efficiency as a person who fires weapons. He came onto the scene as a barbaric animal. Did not give the young man who apparently had been in a road rage incident prior to this, right? And so they were trying to find him. They found him. They pulled him over, but did not give the man a chance to even unbuckle himself. According to Promvangza, He said, I did not have an opportunity to take off my seatbelt before I was literally blindsided with this unnecessary attack. I immediately pulled over for the Worthington squad car, and before I knew what was happening, I was beat and ripped from my vehicle. And that's quite literally what you see. But the officer, Joe Jaswayek, who is a member of the Buffalo Ridge Drug Task Force, he was called in for backup, and he came in guns a-blazing. And instead of Joe Jaswayek being put on desk duty or being reprimanded, the young man, Anthony Prombangsa, 22-year-old, is facing charges for tailgating, swerving, making hand gestures out of the window, and closing at a high rate of speed, and several other charges. So basically, he's facing jail time, probably for things that he did, right? This is not to absolve him of anything. He could be guilty as hell here. He could be guilty as hell and still not deserve to be treated like he was treated there, in the sense that he was not even given an opportunity to get out of the seatbelt before this officer accosted him. I mean, not accosted is such a nice word to describe a brutal assault. So brutal. I mean, just to see it, I want you to see it again. I want you to look at this. I want you to see how this officer comes into the scene and assaults this man without any opportunity for the man to even comply. He's not given a chance to comply before he's beat senseless. Let's watch it. And watches the police officer on the right-hand side.
Get the fuck out of the car! Get the fuck out!
I mean, like, and the officer cuts off the audio. Just look at this. So the ACLU has taken up the case, and they are pursuing civil rights violations here in order to address this issue. But this is it's just another day in America, and we would not have this if we did not have access to the dash cam. As with many other incidents with cell phone footage, we would not even know this happened had there not been video. It would have been the officer's word against the man who was in handcuffs. And as we know from historical precedent, whenever it's that, even when we have video, let me stop myself and correct myself. Even when we have video, nothing ever happens, ever. 857-600-0518. Leave your comments in the comments section. We've got a litter of voicemails that we haven't had a chance to play. So let's play the first one and see what our listeners have to say.
This is Bob. I'm calling from Central Kentucky. Come across your scope a couple of times. I just had to call in. I just can't believe the outrageous twisting of facts, the constant race-baiting rhetoric to refer to nationalism as just white people. The nationalist movement for Trump supporters is all colors and creeds, black, white, brown, all Americans looking out to protect American values and grow. This constant divisiveness rhetoric that your show spews is exactly why we have people being shot now. It's got to stop. Militias are not going out and killing law enforcement. That's absurd. In fact, law enforcement's killed many of the militias. Just look at Ruby Ridge, Waco, etc. So please get your facts straight and quit race baiting, and let's bring people together to make America great again.
Okay, this dude literally said, let's make America great again. Do you know that in 30 years from now, we're going to look back at the red hats and consider them the brown coats? What is whatever? We're going to look at anyone who has a picture of the red hat, and we're going to see you the same way that we see all of the greats in American and world history, like the Nazis. You know why? Because of the things that you actually do and advocate for. If you're successful, it's going to leave a stain on American history so dark that white supremacy can't even wash it out. So let's actually address one of the things. This dude went all the way back to Ruby Ridge and Waco. Dude, I was in middle school when Waco happened. Not even middle school. I think I was like freaking 9 years old, whatever. This was so long ago. You have to go back 20, 30 years. I'm old as shit. You have to go back that far in order to get an example of the police killing militia? I mean, hell, I could just go back just last year, 2016. More police officers were killed by white men than any other group. That's on record. right? You say militias don't kill police officers. Bullshit. They freaking kill police officers all the time. 2014, Las Vegas, 2 police officers were sitting eating pizza, and they were approached and shot, assassination style, point blank range, by 2 militia members, 2 white supremacists, Jared and Amanda Miller. I remember that story. Because it was a shocking execution of police officers. And it shouldn't be shocking because it happens all the damn time. And yet you want to say I'm race baiting because Donald Trump, his coalition is a rainbow coalition. Where? Please, tell me where. I've been to some Donald Trump events. I've seen his conventions. I mean, you can barely find a brown speckle in his audience of 80,000 people. Please, show me. But of course, if I call out racism, I'm the real racist. If I point out white nationalism, now I thought this guy was going to be smart, actually. When he started down this road about white nationalism not being the only form of nationalism, I honestly thought, oh, he might be smart because there is black nationalism. And just for the record, I don't support any type of supremacy, right? I'm not going to fight against white supremacy to turn it over to black supremacy. There's some black supremacists I can't stand more than I can stand you, So just trust me. Like, I thought he was going to be smart, but he wasn't. Unfortunately, he's been afflicted with the MAGA disease. All right, let's listen to the next caller.
Mr. Benjamin Dixon, man, just wanted to tell you I love the show. I've been listening for about a year now, calling from Dallas, Texas. Love the viewpoint, love the dialogue, man. Love the format, love everything about the show.
Appreciate it.
Real quick, man, I wanted to just find out what has been done to deal with or address the promise that Donald Trump made to have a constitutional amendment to have term limits for the Congress, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. I think that needs to happen. And one of the things I support him on. Love you to just talk about that a little bit. Thanks.
Listen, let me tell you, if Donald Trump does something on this, and I don't think he will, but if he does, much like the Giaforte or whatever his name is, the guy who body slammed, DDT'd Ben Jacobs, his first speech on the floor was about term limits. Now, I think Giaforte or Giafonte, whatever the hell his name is, I think he's probably a piece of shit on everything else. But if he's right on this, I'll support him on that. And if Donald Trump actually comes out for term limits, I'm actually for that. I don't think that it should be anything brief. I don't think it should be like 2 or 3 terms because, as you see, there's a learning curve for these people in Congress. There is a learning curve to be effective, but I don't think someone should be there for their entire life. This is not a retirement plan. Running for office should not be a retirement plan. You should be able to get there, be given an opportunity to learn the ropes, serve for a set amount of time, and go home. If Donald Trump actually supports that, I would support him on that. Just like if Donald Trump just magically out of the blue comes out for a single payer, I'd support Donald Trump for single payer, even against the Democratic Party, because something tells me that they would find a way to be the opposition to Donald Trump's single payer plan. That's just my fan fantasy fiction right there. Last voicemail.
Hello, Ben. This is Robert Hughes. I'm calling from Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm commenting on the Philando Castile case.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout all this, where in the world is the NRA?
Word.
To me, the NRA is a bunch of white guys with guns advocating for other white guys and some women with guns. And to them, Philando Castile was just some Negro who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. They shot him like a dog.
Yeah.
And like I said, to the NRA, he's just some dead nigger. I'm sorry to use that term, but that's just the way I feel. I don't use that term often, but just some dead Negro. And, and they're silent. So if you could comment on that, I would really appreciate it.
I was really trying to gauge. Trying to gauge from your voice if you were black or not, man. That kind of matters. The context of you using that word. I'm just gonna be 100. Keep it 100. I appreciate the sentiment of what you're saying, but damn, man, it's just at least lie to me and say I'm black and I'm getting ready to use this word. But anyway, not to make light of what your comment, because your comment is astute. The NRA is missing in action. They don't care. And I don't think I can actually say it any better than you've already said it, except, I probably have the license to say the N-word. But they do not care. They have not said a single thing. He had a card. He had a license to carry this weapon, and he was killed by a governing authority. Robbed him of his right to carry that weapon and robbed him of his right to life. And the entirety of the NRA has been completely silent. And you know why? Because now the officer said he smelled marijuana, right? As though that is that's a death sentence. That's the worst thing in the world that you could do. But I think in general, you're right. This is just a black guy. This is just a dude that they would normally refer to as a thug, because they wouldn't do what you did and use the N-word. They would just say a thug in public. In private, they would do it. And because they see him as that, they had no reason whatsoever to stand up for his rights. Because as we know, their rights are limited in America. You can open carry if you're a white man comfortably, or if you're in a big group of black people doing a demonstration. But if you're just an average Joe black guy, you better be careful open carrying. Anger is reserved for conservative white men in America. And the right to bear arms clearly is a statement from the NRA that is reserved for conservative white men in America. Folks, I'll be out all next week and the following week on a first vacation that I've ever taken from the Benjamin Dixon Show. But we will be doing a private podcast because I don't really take vacations. For patrons, every night I'll do an hour-long podcast for patrons. Go to Patreon. Yes, this is just my way of bringing you in to become a patron. Go to patreon.com/the BPD show and pledge, $1, $3 a month, whatever it is that you can do, and get access to the next 2 weeks of podcasts. Other than that, the show somebody would be hosting it. Some nights, someone may not. We'll let you know what's going on. David and the crew and Max and everyone, they'll take care of it and make sure you know what's going on. I'm out of here. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.